Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to India's one of the biggest and powerful cohorts of the year, TechXelerate. My name is Ashwarya, and I would like to welcome and introduce you to Ms. Deepa Sayal.
A very warm good afternoon to all the beautiful ladies. My name is Deepa Sayal, like Ashwarya said, and I'm the president for IWIL India. And I also hold and run a community which is called Tech Supergirl. I assure you that the experiences that we are going to create in India are going to be never before. We are trying to build a mentor network with already 200 plus mentors on board. We are happy to tell you that for the last 3 months, we must have met 450 plus women entrepreneurs in the sunrise industries like blockchain, IoT, edutech. Very proud to tell you that we have worked with CII, FICCI, Shell, and now this program, TechXelerate, we are working with AWS, Amazon. I would like to give a warm welcome to Dr. Sangeeta Reddy.
Namaste and hello. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you as we come together for this very critical initiative which is transforming society, the country and the world at large. Women-led micro enterprises are the powerhouse that increase income in the face of increasing unemployment in our country. And micro enterprises are truly the engines of job growth. They can boost job creation while fueling sustainable economic development. And it is estimated that there are 13.5 million to approximately 15.7 million women-owned and controlled enterprises, creating a direct employment for about 22 to 27 million people in India. And while many Indian women have ambitions towards entrepreneurship, it is more difficult for them to succeed. In fact, India has been found to be in a group of countries where women-owned businesses, as well as women leaders and professionals, struggle with less favorable conditions, pronounced cultural biases, and a lack of business resources such as finances, capital, training, and development. For instance, a recent study showed in India that the gender gap and our ability to close that gender gap could lead to a 6 to 8% gain in GDP. And another study estimated that advancing women's equality in India could boost its GDP by close to $0.7 trillion by the year 2025. Moreover, entrepreneurship remains a critical lever to really harness the economic potential of women and therefore help us to achieve our sustainable development goals or SDGs by 2030. Fostering women entrepreneurial mindset and encouraging women-led enterprise is key to addressing India's problems at many levels. Empowering the greater 50 was an idea that I envisioned over a year ago when I was president of FICCI. And the idea was really to inspire this pivotal segment of our nation, which is our women. And the vision was to foster inclusion at every level of the economy and the enterprise, and to enhance entrepreneurial and decision-making skills of women through a series of offerings. And we have done things like training on important aspects like digital marketing and branding to help women in business. So really it's about helping them advance their business in every single way. But it's also about promoting entrepreneurship, about advancing women in management and leadership. And we've worked with multiple corporates and had partnerships with things like the Great Places to Work. It's about training human resource professionals about gender inclusion in the workplace. And I'm so glad that IWIL India is one of the greater partners, and Deepa Sayal has been mentoring some of the greater 50 women beneficiaries. I also want to say that so many fantastic women have really come forward and helped us make the greater 50 an initiative which is strong, which is growing and having impact. And over the last 2 years, while the COVID pandemic has really wreaked havoc on many businesses and led to job losses and so many aspects, so often we hear the stories where the breadwinner, who was the man, lost his job and the wife decided to take up something and fight against all odds. So many fantastic stories are coming forward of how women hold the family together, step up and take responsibility, and come back into the mainstream workforce. So I think that women are inspirational in their ability to, just face all kinds of adversity and take a positive role and a very practical, need-based kind of role. And it is these women who pave the path for more women to stand up and do something special. To women entrepreneurs, I think I cannot but appreciate, acknowledge, encourage, and say just, I'm proud of all of you, and I know there's so much more that you need to do, but it is critical for us to encourage more women into entrepreneurship and to ensure that the first step is towards empowering the next wave of young female students to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and to understand that they are capable, they can do it. Any of their doubts, their diffidence, their fears, or even their practical problems related to capital, to expertise, there are organizations, whether it's the Greater 50, great organizations like IWIL, to help and to make that difference. And so I'm very happy to be with all of you today to really, applaud the tremendous work that you're doing, to celebrate the partnership of our coming together, and to say that I have great hope for all the wonderful things that we can do. The Greater 50 initiative that we have started is a small step, but I truly want to congratulate the entire team of IWIL for organizing this thoughtful endeavor, for all the great work that's been done by Deepa, and I want to thank you all for inviting me here today. May this journey of women-led development, so this is not women development, this is women-led development, continue to inspire all of us, to empower all of us, and to transform into a better world through this women empowerment. Thank you so much. God bless all of you, and namaste.
Okay, so that was Dr. Sangeeta Reddy. She's so graceful and so vibrant when she speaks, and it is a beautiful speech that intends to bridge the gap that we are soon toward the GDP going to contribute to women incubation and capacitation. So I'd like to introduce Amira. We have Amira Shah with us. She's the Managing Director of Metropolis Healthcare, a multinational chain of pathology centers based in Mumbai with presence in 7 countries. She was named India's most powerful women in business in 2017 and 18 by Fortune India. She obtained a degree in finance from the University of Texas at Austin, and she took over her father's business in 2001 and transformed a single diagnostic lab, which had a revenue of 1.5 million and 40 employees, to about 125 diagnostic labs with $90 million in revenue with 4,500 employees. We are very proud to tell you that we are very excited. Amira, hello, a warm hello to you. Are you there?
I'm here, Deepa. How are you?
I'm very well, and lovely to see you today. It's beautiful, and thank you for sparing your time today. We'd like to know about your journey, the challenges that you have faced in your journey, how you started, what motivated you. Over to you, Amira Shah.
Thanks, Deepa. So I grew up in Bombay, guys, and I went to the US. I studied my undergrad, and I came back to India in 2001. And as probably a lot of you were probably very young then, I don't know what the average age of the audience is. I'm assuming mostly in the 20s and 30s. I'm not that much older, I'm in my 40s. But in 2001, it was very uncool to come back to India. And most people were staying in New York or in the US or in London because that's where the opportunities were. So I was a contrarian, and I always have been a contrarian pretty much my entire life. I was a contrarian in that decision as well, where I decided to come back, and all my friends told me, "You're crazy. What are you going to do in India? There's nothing here." And I was very clear that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and the opportunity for me was to either do that in the US or to come back to India. And I felt that being patriotic, I wanted to come back and give back to my country. My parents were both doctors, and at the time, both had successful practices of their own. I felt that there was a humongous opportunity in healthcare to go beyond the doctor-led practice to actually building an institution, to building an organization. It was not really, Deepa mentioned, was a business, wasn't really a business at the time. It was more of a doctor's practice, which I got an opportunity to take as a platform, because there were employees, there was a brand called Dr. Sushil Shah's Lab, there was good quality. And I was able to metamorphose this to really building an institution that is today called Metropolis. We're not only in 200 cities across India, but in 5 countries with 4,500 employees and a market cap of 2 billion plus. When I started 20 years ago, women were not seen as entrepreneurs they wanted to back. We were not the ones they wanted to place their bets on if there was another guy in the ecosystem that they thought they could trust more. So I think over the last 20 years, and especially being in the brick and mortar industry, it's taken me to go to a 2 billion kind of valuation. It took Kiran, 30, 40 years to go to a significantly higher business. But there's also Falguni, who in 8 years now has done something much larger because she's in the tech world. And in the tech world, scale is faster compared to the brick and mortar world. You can just go that much quicker. So it is now is the time for women in technology in India to shine. So this is really the time to seize it.
So I'll tell you about my experience while we are discussing this. I have lost a lot of money while building my company. I've been totally bootstrapped, and I lost about 3 to 4 crores in a bank thing. But I stood up and I started again. So challenges aate rahenge, conflict aata rahega aapka. The second question, very quickly, Amira is, hi, I'm Ekta Arora, co-founder of Casper Tech. My question is, I'm currently an undergraduate in the final year. We started Casper Tech last year. Although we have achieved validation of our product on multiple platforms, we often get this advice that you should go for a job instead of starting a business, which actually leads to self-doubt. How should I deal with that?
So look, I think I'm assuming, I don't know who that advice is coming from. I'm assuming it's coming from family. It's an assumption.
Yeah.
But if it is coming from family, just recognize it for what it is, that your family wants you to have stability. And they're worried that at this point, if you're experimenting with startup and entrepreneurial role, then if it fails, then you're left with nothing. The reality in today's world is that even if you fail in your startup and it doesn't go on to become a unicorn or even survive a year later, the reality is that experience in the startup will give you significant experience that will be valuable to a company when you go for a job. So I think the decision about whether to stick with the entrepreneurial role or to go for a job, I think depends on you and your family's financial situation. I just want to share one thing that I went through. I remember I was 35 years old. I was in a situation where we had a very difficult shareholder, a hostile investor in the company for 15 years before that. And I had a choice at that point of time. I had only 36% in my company. And I had a choice at that point. One was that the company was not growing well because there was a difficult situation. I felt not happy in the situation. And I could just continue to live in the status quo, unhappy and seeing my business getting damaged because I didn't have the money I thought to do anything differently. I didn't come from a rich business family that I had all the money available to just invest. So my choice was to live with status quo, or my other choice was to somehow find a way to take control of this business and take it to the destiny that I believe it actually deserved. But doing that meant taking a humongous risk. That humongous risk was 600 crores of debt, which I took. And I decided to go in the second direction, which was about taking the debt, paying a crazy interest rate, and re-transforming and restructuring my business to make it grow much better. And I remember going to a lot of my people who I thought were friends and mentors, and they all looked at me and said, "You're crazy. This is really foolish. This could completely die." So what I did was I said, yeah, that's a fair point. And I made a scenario analysis. I charted out every single scenario that could possibly happen, best and worst. And I then did detailed analysis on every situation. And I came to the conclusion that even in the worst situation, right, that if the worst scenario came, keeping in mind that whatever I knew, I would still be okay. It would not be the end of my life. It would not be the end of my world. It would not be the end of my family's world. And I would find a way to go on. I would be left with nothing, but that's okay. I would at least not be crazily in debt because the assets I had already built in the company would have been able to pay off the debt. So after evaluating every scenario, I decided to go ahead and I planned and mapped everything perfectly. And the process of planning and mapping is actually what gave me the confidence to do it. Often the fear is in our mind. It's anticipatory fear of the unknown. Actually, when you start putting it down on paper and you start thinking of, okay, what is the worst situation? What does it actually mean for me? How much negative will I be? How much in loss will I be? Actually, those situations then become much easier to understand and much easier to decide what you want to do. So that was a huge risk I took. And there are many risks in life which don't pay off. Mine, luckily for me, paid off. And we went from being a company that was valued in 2015, where I took a 600 crore risk, at 2,000 crores, which was about $300 million, to today, where the company is valued at $2 billion. And thankfully, that was paid.
I am not at a stage at the moment, but if I was on a stage, I would do a round of applause, clap for you when you say, the figures that you mentioned, you really need. बहुत risk लेने के लिए आपको एक उसको बोलते हैं हिंदी में गूदा चाहिए. You really need the guts to take that kind of a risk. This is humongous. Very, very proud journey you've done, Amira, and we need to see more women contributing to the Indian GDP. So with that, Amira, I'd like to thank you. Thank you on behalf of all the women who are listening to you. I have 112 people on my screen, and all the ladies at Tech Supergirl and IWIL India. Thank you so much for joining in today. And we hope to have you as a patron on board, and our future events keep coming and keep enlightening us with your beautiful thoughts and motivating thoughts.
Yes? Thanks, guys. All the best.
So much, Amira. Lovely, lovely having you here. Thanks a lot, and a good evening to you. Rajesh is known to build the world's largest trucking network and a unicorn. As the co-founder and CEO of Blackbuck, I'm sure he is championing the fundraising game. Now, that is the biggest thing. At such a young age, I'd like to tell you that he's a IIT Kharagpur graduate and many, many milestones to achieve for him. So Rajesh, over to you, and we really want to hear this journey. What led you, to start this story, the genesis, how it began, and over to you. And we are all eager. And ladies, let your questions come after he finishes. Thank you.
Yeah. So Deepa, I think for me, wanting to build Blackbuck was more from a context of being part of the industry, right? Yeah. So. As you were introducing me, right? 2010 is when I graduated out of IIT Kharagpur, joined a business of ITC, which was one of the which is a leaf tobacco business, one of the largest businesses for the company. Was doing supply chain, and that's where essentially for the company we were able to save massive amount of cost efficiencies, right? So what it was very clear was that at a macro level, India is inefficient on logistics costs. At a company level, it was inefficient. And if you could do few simple things, right, you were able to, let's say, help, beat the service levels, help the costs. And when, then started exploring, reading about what's happening at India level, reading about what can we do better, right? Yeah. And that's where essentially the opportunity stumbled upon that, this is a wide, deep space. People have tried that before. It wasn't that it was us trying to say that let's build the marketplace for freight. People tried that before. People did not succeed, right? And it was more like a very, I would say, gut-based decision saying that, okay, I think somebody has to do this. 10 years down the lane, freight will be operated very differently. It will not be operated in the way today where out of 30 days, 13, 15 days are still idling, right? So I think that was basically a mix of macro trends, mix of what the work I did at ITC, right? And saying that, okay, let's build this. And that's how the journey started. And I was very fortunate to get, and to build a company. I think it's very important to have a very strong, I would say, not only the founders, but also the founding team. So, two of the people with whom I worked very deeply, one of them was in consulting, right? He was the first guy I discussed the idea with. The other person was my first ever, reportee, or he was my intern actually. And then he joined my team back in 2014. He graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 2013. So three of us sort of came together in 2015 and said that let's build this, and was very fortunate to have a founding team in the first year, which was with multi skill sets, very passionate, right?
Wonderful. So आप ये कह रहे हैं कि relationships go a long way because you happen to find your co-founders who had the supplementing, qualities, and that is what led you to build the unicorn. That's what you're saying, right? I'm very keen to know if anybody wants to build a unicorn. Now, this is such a statement which does not validate in itself, but what are the 3 or 4 key constituents or ingredients you think when you want to build a company like yours? What do you think are the 4 things that lead you to the grit and determination to do it?
Yeah, I think first, like probably 60 seconds of Gyan, right? Don't try to build a unicorn, right? Try to solve a problem, try to live through a journey, try to create impact, right? And try to do something which you feel very natural about it, right? I mean, if let's say I was probably building Facebook, I would have failed miserably, right? If Mark Zuckerberg was probably building trucking, I don't know the chances of success, right? So I think, the first thing is try not to, probably become become a unicorn CEO, right? Try for doing things which come to you naturally, which you feel love for, which, like no matter what, you will always stay there to make it happen, right? So, and this is something which I share, with few of the people, is that like the building a company journey, solving a problem at an India scale, right, is a journey where there'll be a lot of lows than highs, right? And in those lows, the only thing which will stay with you is the reason you started this.
Correct.
And the reason has to be so strong, because unicorn CEO banna hai, wo reason generally is not that strong, right? Because when you're at the shittiest point in your life to do things, charisma and all that comes later, right? First is survival, first is people around you, right? Who have trusted you on this journey, right? Investors, everybody, right? So I think, so yeah, so before getting into the more mechanics of building a great company, I think don't build it for the unicorn. So hence, coming into what will it take? First is the right motivation to start, right? Like few entrepreneurs I speak to, like if I hear the reasons, like I'm starting because I want to be my own boss, right? I want to be independent. I don't like working somewhere, right? Those are like the most worst reasons to start, because those don't give you long enduring sustained motivations, right? Second, I would say is that I think building a company, like let's say, when you're starting up and you want to create an impact, choose the space which, generally a large space helps you go wrong by multiple times, but you still have the industry right, the problem right, right? And in that problem, ensure that you are having some tailwinds, right? Because when you play in the tailwinds, you always win. When you play in headwinds, you always lose, right? Building an IT services company today versus in 95, it is very tough to build it today. 95, अगर वो 85 में चालू होती, वो शायद probably if Infosys started 10 years before, they wouldn't have been successful. Be very, you will never have a direct answer, right? So be ready with having a very open mind, right? To experiment, be very little on, I would say, drawing boards, right? Do drawing board thinking, be thoughtful, but I think just go out and experiment and try different product market fits, right? Get to the market faster, understand customers properly, right? So do more iterations. Obviously, don't bet the farm on those experiments, but point is, I think there's a way to do that, right? So I think, so the third advice would be iterate fast, iterate often, right? And yeah, hit the market rather than being on the drawing board for a long time.
Wonderful. That's so valuable. So these are 4 things that I pick up from what you told us. One is the beautiful thing. The first thing that you said today, co-founders. If you have great relationships, encash them. You need to have like-minded founders. The second is solve a problem. The third is choose something that you love and thrive on. और सबसे बड़ी बात कि passion is the most important, like you said, to be passionate and just, go all out, take the plunge. That is what we learned from this. How do you think women can leverage the banking system and government schemes? जो जितनी भी औरतें और महिलाएं मुझे सुन रही हैं, तो आप मुझे लगता है you are the first, you are the protagonist. आप सबसे पहले कतार में खड़े हैं कि हमारी ऐसी कौन सी गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स हैं आपके हिसाब से जैसे जिनसे ये बेनिफिट कर सकती हैं, even if they have to start small, but start somewhere, and that is how it is.
देखिए, हर कोई चाहते हैं, यानी मैं ऐसे कहती हूँ कि वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम में 2018 में उन्होंने ये स्टडी की कि जेंडर गैप को क्लोज करने के लिए कितने साल लगेंगे, and it was a very important study. And I'm very thankful to World Economic Forum to do that study. That how many years will it take to close the gender gap? You know what study results came out, that it will take 135 years to close the gender gap. Now my reaction to that study was that, do we want to wait for so long? No, हम अपनी पीढ़ी में ही जेंडर गैप क्लोज करना चाहेंगे ना. क्यों भाई, हम 135 साल, ब्लूमबर्ग बोल रही है 200 साल. वाई? सो इफ वी वांट टू क्लोज द जेंडर गैप, तो वो तो सरकार के तो दरवाजे हमको खटखटाने ही चाहिए, कि हमको ही नहीं ना. इंडिया इंडेक्स में, विमेन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के इंडेक्स में कहाँ, हम लोग तो श्रीलंका, बांग्लादेश से भी पीछे हैं. मेरे कहना है कि हम आगे जा सकते हैं. और क्या है गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स? सो लेट मी कम टू फर्स्ट थिंग इज दैट प्रयास विच इज अंडर मुद्रा, सिडबी करके गवर्नमेंट, आरबीआई की ऑटोनोमस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, स्पॉन्सर्ड बाय आरबीआई, स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड, और दे गिव लोन टू स्मॉल बिजनेसेस. इट्स अ जेंडर एग्नोस्टिक, बट इन दैट उनका प्रयास ये करके दूसरी एक स्कीम है जिसके अंदर स्टार्टअप्स के लिए, बिजनेसेस के लिए लोन दिए जाते हैं. एंड दीज लोन्स आर इंडिविजुअल लोन्स, बट दीज लोन्स रिक्वायर अ कोलैटरल, कि महिलाओं के नाम पे प्रॉपर्टी तो है नहीं, तो आप कोलैटरल क्या दोगे? बट I am in the committee of the SIDBI, and we have made sure that under this प्रयास स्कीम में महिलाओं को बिजनेस स्टार्टअप करने के लिए मिले. और यू कैन सी ऑन द पोर्टल ऑफ द स्टार्टअप इंडिया ऑल्सो, विच पोर्टल इज मेंटेन्ड बाय सिडबी एंड मुद्रा. तो उस पर जाके देखेंगे, और वहाँ पोर्टल पे ये भी है कि यू कैन ऑलवेज फिल अप द फॉर्म फॉर द, इफ यू आर डिमांडिंग द लोन, and once you fill up the form, then they will link you with the branch. So that is one. The another one, which is Women Transforming India Award, which Deepa, you must be knowing also, that this award is launched by Niti Aayog, and all still till December the dates is there, and all women business entrepreneurs should apply to this award, Women Transforming India Award. This is by Niti Aayog. Actually ये award है, but if you are finalist in this award, then you are linked with the investors. वो आपको इन्वेस्टर्स से मिलाते हैं, और इन्वेस्टर्स अपना इंटरेस्ट दिखाते हैं. You have to show your business model or showcase your business, and if they are interested, they invest in you, either in equity or debt. That is another. The third one, which is, I would say that, Umidyar is the platform where even the LLPs or private limited companies can apply for the debt or equity, and where you can get it, because नहीं तो बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि अगर आपका नॉन प्रॉफिट है तो नॉन प्रॉफिट पे ग्रांट मिलता है, पर अगर बिजनेस शुरू करें और बिजनेस में अगर आपको लोन चाहिए, डेब्ट चाहिए, मतलब equity चाहिए, equity इंडिया में there are very few options, but there is another company which is Ankur Capital, which is a private equity firm. तो वो अंकुर कैपिटल ने साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में जो महिलाएं बिजनेस करती हैं उसमें वो इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, आइदर इन अ फॉर्म ऑफ इक्विटी और इन अ फॉर्म ऑफ लोन और अ डेब्ट, यू कैन से. आई नो दैट कोई भी इक्विटी में आएगा तो इक्विटी के रिटर्न्स काफ़ी हाई डिमांड करते हैं, एंड वन हैज़ टू बी वेरी कंफर्टेबल विद दैट. बट मैं ये चाहूँगी कि बहुत बार ना आसान रहता है कि ऐसे पैसे इक्विटी के फॉर्म में करने से पहले अपना बिजनेस खड़ा लोन पे करें, अपना ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड बैंक के साथ बनाएं, और फिर आप बड़े प्लेटफॉर्म पे इक्विटी वगैरह रेज करने की बात करें, बिकॉज दैट विल रिक्वायर लॉट ऑफ टेक्निकल सपोर्ट, लाइक आपका बिजनेस प्लान कैसा होगा, स्ट्रैटेजिक प्लान कैसा होगा, हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू हैंडल योर इक्विटी एंड ऑल दैट. एंड मैं बैंक चलाती हूँ तो आई वुड से दैट बैंकर्स के पास से अगर एक आपका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड होगा बैंक के साथ, then it will be helpful. Now I am coming to a question which all of you, many of you may have, कि बहुत बार बैंक्स ऐसा बोलती हैं कि आपका रेटिंग हमको नहीं मालूम है. Many women don't take loan, और लोन नहीं है तो रेटिंग नहीं है, रेटिंग नहीं है तो फिर से लोन नहीं है, so you get into that vicious circle. I do think that in such case there are some NBFCs like which are sponsored by IFMR and Avishkar कि जहाँ फर्स्ट टाइम बोरोवर के लिए भी लोन मिलता है. And in Avishkar is the platform which also gives invest in the new startups. It would be worth trying. See, these are the platform, either it is Avishkar or it is Niti Ayog. When you get an award on those platforms, investors are there who are interested in investing in you. There is another center in Pune, Social Entrepreneurship Innovation Center. In fact, yesterday I was a keynote speaker there and I saw so many startups and they give you an award of 50,000 rupees. बहुत बड़ा अवार्ड नहीं है पर आप उसमें अप्लाई करेंगे, then they mentor you for 2 years, that they give you the award and then 2 years mentorship, and then they introduce you to different investors who are ready to invest in it. See, lot of people are ready to invest not only just the return of equity, but they would invest that you are working on some very important subject. ठीक है, हमारा पैसा डूब भी गया तो we are ready to invest in you. So there are different ways where you can forward, but again I would repeat, Siddhi Prayas, this is again a government program where you can be part. नीति आयोग का स्पेशली विमेन के लिए विमेन ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग इंडिया अवार्ड, और अभी भी किसी ने नहीं है तो दिसंबर तक आप अप्लाई कर सकते हो, वहाँ भी एक्सपोजर काफ़ी इन्वेस्टर्स से मिलता है. दैट इज़ अनदर, एंड यू आर highly publicized with the Women Transforming India Award. That is second. Ankur Capital is third. Startup India or Invest India, these are the places where you can not only just get the loan or schemes, पर ये है कि machines की scheme है. Invest India particularly, वहाँ आप बहुत सारे मशीनरीज की हाइपोथिकेशन के लिए आपको मिल सकता है, हमारी भी महिलाओं को मिला है. The another one which I would like, if those who are into the digital marketing, Amazon Sakhi is another, where Amazon has this special program on Amazon Sakhi, and you should start exploring now only, because by March they do give some space on the Amazon digital platform for you to, they don't charge on it, because as a International Women's Day, they do give the space, free space, and many of our women also have got their space on the Amazon also, where they are selling their produce. और Amazon का डिजिटल मार्केटिंग प्लेटफॉर्म का एक अच्छी बात क्या होती है, मेट्रो सिटी में है तो आसान होता है, और दूसरा अच्छी बात ये होती है कि उनके लॉजिस्टिक्स चार्जेस कंपैरेटिवली लोकल कुरियर सर्विस से कम रहते हैं. So these are, Walmart is another area where you can explore. They have started recently the fund. Then there is one another, Samhita. Samhita is the organization. I would just like to say that please write the name Samhita. If you need a small, without interest, returnable loan, you get it from them also. And there is a, if even Deepa, I can introduce you to some of the organization here where these women can get, those who are doing business can get the loan without interest from these places. And people, those who, women, those who are in Maharashtra, they can always go to Maharashtra Arthik Vikas Mahamandal, Mavim. They give it. Mavim and ICICI Bank has the partnership. And of course, Mandishi is there in Maharashtra.
Very, very nice, ma'am. I don't know what to say. I've met many women during my journey. I have been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, very seasoned entrepreneurs, but yours is a story which is set apart in the rural area and so brilliantly carved. And I'm proud to call you an Indian woman. I must tell you that. That is the spirit of this particular moment. I'm so deeply, overwhelmed as I listen to it. I really, really appreciate the time that you have spent, ma'am. And here is Sabir Nigam. Guys, I've introduced you to him. He is one powerful man, in the fintech industry. This year, revenue 690 crores and with an 80% jump year on year. Samir has had a brilliant stint. We spoke to him the other day. और बहुत ही interesting इंसान भी हैं apart from being an entrepreneur.
Thanks, Deepa. Pleasure to be here.
So Sakshi Rastogi from helium.io. She says, today you have the highest, Sakshi, if you want to speak up, I'll be happy to raise your hand, but she says, you have the highest market share in the UPI transactions. Congrats. You rose from the second in 2019, 20% to the unbeatable highest 45%. How did you win over competition? And what tips would you give some of us who are at an early stage to overcome competition?
So UPI is an interesting space. When we entered, everyone said you're nuts, and fairly so, by the way, because UPI is about bank-to-bank transfer. So first, you knew every bank's going to make an app, and banks are much, much bigger than any day zero startup. Second, Paytm, MobiKwik, Freecharge were well-established brands. I saw Partner on the slate. I mean, these were well-established brands with a bunch of money. And then because it's an interoperable network, we knew that Google and WhatsApp and Facebook and all these guys are going to enter, right? All the global biggies. The cool part, when you know that you will have very fierce competition, maybe 100 competitors, is that you also know, I call it Murphy's Law. If you're within sight, if the enemy is within sight, so are you, right? So everyone's looking at each other. Here's the dirty little secret for us. Every year, if you go back and look at the UPI records, we were in the top 3 since we launched. We were just there early. We moved from first position to second or third and then bounced right back every year for the last 5 years. Because every year when a big name launch happens, today WhatsApp is launching. 2 years ago, Google had launched. Year before that, Paytm had launched. Every time somebody big launches, the media gets super excited and all the attention shifts there. That's the best time to strike, guys. When there's no attention on you as a startup, you're a challenger, you should actually play to the galleries on that one and just say, I'm small. When people look at you, when you're the incumbent is when you have trouble. Defending a large share is much, much harder than actually going after it. So enjoy the fact that you're small because you can move at a speed at which others can't. You just can't. As far as taking market share, I'll give you a simple example of things we did that others couldn't do because they were much larger. When Jio launched in India, Paytm was maybe 100 times larger than us on recharge, mobile recharge, a very, very simple use case. We talked to Jio and said, we'll give 75 rupees off to every customer who does a 300 rupee recharge. Now that sounds crazy, but here's the cool part. We went on every Indian newspaper, spent a lot of money, and we said 75 rupees on 300. We got 2 million users in the first, I think, week or two, because everyone wanted to get a Jio line at that time. The competition couldn't afford to do it because if, let's say, a Paytm or a MobiKwik who were much larger than us at the time, if they had done the same thing, if they tried that same idea at that time, 100 times more is what they would have spent. So if we spend 1 crore, they would have to spend 100 crores on cashback because the customers were already there, right? So you just basically have to find ideas that others can't replicate because they're already at scale.
We got that. We got that loud and clear, Samir. Very, very insightful. So thank you, Samir. This has been such an interesting session. Now we have our next speaker, Taina Majitia. Ye Mighty se hai. She's a seasoned lawyer and she works with Mighty and looks after the startup ecosystem. And Taina has been a legal consultant. She's been in different spheres that she'd like to. She's taking care of the innovation and IPR division Mighty. But all I can tell you is that she works very, very closely with the Startup Hub, and she may have a lot of information about what government schemes or what schemes you can benefit from. So over to you, Taina. How are you, Taina? I can see on my screen. How are you doing? Very good evening.
Very well, Deepa. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much. We're all glad to have you here. So Taina is a busy woman. I know that you've been working with Jeet and so many things. Yesterday also you had some ministerial conference day before yesterday. So Taina, we're really looking forward we're looking forward for, what are the informative? All the women want to know that the schemes or for startups from Mighty that are coming, they're flowing in, and how can women avail such schemes? How can startups make use of them? So there's some information we'd love you to share with all our listeners today.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. So first of all, it's a privilege to be on your platform, and I've been logged in for a bit. So your energy is infectious. So Deepa, kudos to you. Yeah, so I think you are also an inspiration. So for starters, let's take you for an example. You're an inspiration to all of us. So to begin with, the government of India has been doing its bit as a stakeholder in the ecosystem to promote women entrepreneurship. We have other stakeholders in the ecosystem. We have banks who've been giving great incentives to women in the form of subsidized loans. So we all know that women constitute roughly 14%. I think that would be a good median to take for the total entrepreneurship base, which is, of course, as we know, abysmally poor. But we are coming up. We are coming up in a big way. And the government, speaking on behalf of the Ministry of Electronics and IT, we have various schemes in place to encourage entrepreneurship for starters. So we have the Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs Scheme. This was put together by METI in 2008 to promote innovation by nurturing startups in the ICT domain. And more recently, we have the Type 2.0 scheme. So this was done with a vision to enhance technology incubation and development of entrepreneurs, to promote tech entrepreneurship through financial and technical support to incubators engaged in supporting ICT startups. And of course, there are various other schemes in place. We have the SIP EIT scheme for SMEs. I'm sure people in the IP world would know that. That is support for international patent protection in electronics and IT. We have the Multiplier Grant Scheme, which is to encourage collaborative R&D between industry and academia. We have the IP awareness programs for E&IT sector from COE IP, that is a wing of Ministry of Electronics and IT, that stands for Center of Excellence in IPR. We have IPR facilitation for METI R&D. We have centers of excellences in intellectual property rights. We have established incubators for electronic startups in Delhi, NCR, in the form of electropreneur parks. And we also have an electronics incubator in, say, for example, in Kerala, in Kochi, to encourage entrepreneurship. We have also set up an incubation center in the area of ESDM with the focus on medical electronics at IIT Patna. So these are a few initiatives that have been taken up by the Ministry of Electronics, to name a few, to encourage entrepreneurship. Now, focusing on women entrepreneurs, the government is doing its bit, of course. We have some initiatives that promote women entrepreneurship, noteworthy being Mahila Kor Yojana under MSME. This is to facilitate equipment to women entrepreneurs at a subsidized rate. We have trade-related entrepreneurship assistance and development under MSME again, that provides women with trade-related training, information and counseling, and grant of up to, I think, roughly about 30% of the total project cost. State governments are also doing their bit. So most of the state governments are today engaged in innovation and encouraging IPR and startups. To name a noteworthy state government initiatives, we have the state government of Rajasthan. So in September 2018, the iStart program was launched under the state government flagship that reportedly had over 700 startups registered on its platform. And Rajasthan launched its startup policy in 2015. And it allocated, I think, roughly around 500 crores at that time for investments in early stage startups in the form of either equity or soft loans under the Techno Fund. And within this, the funds are allocated for women entrepreneurs to the tune of 100 crores. So this was a very noteworthy initiative on behalf of the state government of Rajasthan. Coming to, say, UP, the new UP Startup Policy 2020, which is this last year, had additional incentives and institutional support for women entrepreneurs. And the Ministry of Electronics and IT, to encourage, is also doing something known as Women Startup Entrepreneur Awards to honor and promote women entrepreneurship. And we hosted it physically last year. This year with the COVID, we haven't hosted it physically. So this is something that the government is doing its bit to promote entrepreneurship. Speaking on behalf of METI Startup Hub, which has been established as a national platform to promote, streamline, enhance, and boost the tech startup ecosystem in the country. So focusing on women-led women entrepreneurs, we've hosted webinars where we've upskilled and educated our women entrepreneurs on different facets of technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And of course, in the market, there are so many platforms doing that also, apart from us encouraging women entrepreneurship and giving incentives to women entrepreneurs. We have platforms like Her Story. We have platforms like She Rose. We have platforms like She the Women. And of course, you also come into the picture. So we are all in an ecosystem where we are together moving towards the same common goal.
Yeah, and IWIL India. Yes. I thought I'll add IWIL India also. So yes, you have Shiro's, you have her story, and then you have IWIL India Tech Supergirl also. I'm interrupting you, so sorry. Please go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to quote, I heard Vishali briefly, and it was very inspiring to hear her. And I'm also a voracious reader. So to do my bit, I'd like to quote Hillary Clinton, former US Secretary of State, where she had said that women are actually the most untapped reservoir of talent in the world. And I think this is so true because women are largely perceived today, which I think we've broken glass ceilings and largely perceived today as more resilient, with larger determination, diligence, and most likely endowed with a natural talent to grow, nurture, and to lead. So this is something that not women of today, women of yesterday have already done. So I think my parting words would be that women have already broken glass ceilings here and there. We are done with it, and hope to see an entrepreneurial world where the word gender never comes up. Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. The market should be ready that you are equally invested as your other counterpart in entrepreneurship, battling the same challenges, and you are prepared for the arduous journey that awaits you.
Wonderful. What good. Beautiful, Tana. So we heard you and you have shared scheme today for UP and Rajasthan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Seetu Satyen. I am part of the startup team at AWS in India, majorly looking after the early stage ecosystem. Really happy, to partner with TechXelerate for this program from the AWS Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. So moving on to our next speaker for today, on a funding masterclass, we have Mansi Shah here from Axel. So Mansi is a vice president at Axel, and she's a part of the investment team focused on early stage investments across the consumer and enterprise sectors. So today, you will hear from her how to go about your fundraising process, do's and don'ts while raising your funds, and what investors look for in early stage startups. So over to you, Mansi. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Sethu. So 4 key things, right, to keep in mind. कि पहले तो थोड़ा zoom out करके VC चीज क्या है. Maybe I'll just try to do a little bit of justice too. So we're all, a lot of us, exciting founders here, solving variety of problems. And venture capital is one form of money that we receive to actually grow our business. बाकी सब बहुत सारी चीजें होती है, बैंक लोन होता है, कोई बार friends and families put in little bit of money in us to help us kind of kick off, grow the business. Venture capital is just one form of funding, and you may have heard of it often. अभी आजकल में थोड़ा it's pretty kind of active as well, we hear companies that are going public. You would have seen Zomato, Policy Bazaar. You would be using some companies like Swiggy, Urban Company, etc. Flipkart. So in सब ने early days में, when they had a idea and they had some signs कि, I have built a product that is working, but I want to build it out further, but I need capital for it. You could have capital for, building out your team. You could need capital for building out, a tech product. You could need capital for marketing, many aspects. So venture capital is one form of that. The 4 kind of key things when you're raising capital, I think, timing, preparation, pitching, and then closing the round. The reason I'm giving this overall view is venture capital is not the only form of money. तो कोई बार ऐसे होता है कि, if I raise money, it means my startup is successful or my company is successful. All models don't need venture capital. So choose the right form of capital for you. तो पहली बात, अगर timing पे जाए, so timing is pretty important. The best actually time to raise is when you think that, hey, you can use the capital, but you don't urgently kind of need the money. You have a clear line of sight. This one I'll really, really push on. कोई बार क्या होता है, founders say कि when I can raise money, let me raise money. And I understand that. But venture capital actually is a fuel for you. So if you don't know कौन सी race दौड़नी है, or you don't have your basic car and kind of idea ready, it will just be fuel spent in the wrong direction. So when you have an execution plan for 18 to 24 months, you have some kind of steps in your mind that are concrete, that time this capital will give you a lot of leverage. So that's the right time. When you talk about fundraise, so fundraise mein, there are many stages. You would have all heard of, there's like a pre-seed round, which is, often at just the founding team idea stage. There would be, the next round, there's a seed round. Typically this ranges from, there could be various, you could get as little as kind of a few lakhs that help you, and that's all you need. In the market, if, what you need is more, typically seed rounds also range in the are in the range of a few crores today. Then there is a series A. Once you have an idea, you have customers that are using you and you want that capital to kind of fuel, and then kind of so on and so forth. So each of these rounds takes a little bit of different amount of time to fundraise, but it can take actually, if you're lucky, a few weeks. If you find those people who believe in you, who really, sometimes have a thesis in your space as well, कि उनको भी ये problem पहले से पता थी and they were just waiting for the right person to come, solve it. That could be very quick, but sometimes it takes more than a year. So account for that much time. At least I would say the median would be account for at least 2 to 3 months. It will also distract you from the work you're doing in the business. So try and have some, planning there. And most importantly, what I started off with, like, don't kind of give up, right? So preparation mein pitch deck hota hai. All of us would have probably, either seen somebody's, like made our own, all of that. It should, if I had to boil down this pitch deck into 3 very fundamental questions. So, बहुत सारी slides लोग अलग-अलग बनाते हैं, but very simply, if let's take a example and do this. So Swiggy, for example, right? When Swiggy came to pitch, say, to Axel in 2015, तो बहुत ही छोटी company थी. There was no app. They had done, I think, some 2,000 orders to date, right? That was it, in just Koramangala in Bangalore. For those of you who are from Bangalore, you can appreciate this. So zyada kuch aise proof point nahi tha, but there were 3 answers that they gave very well. So one is why this. So why this problem and solution that you are going after. Second is why now, that why is this the right time to build the business that all of you are building? And then why us? So why are you the best team that really understands this problem, that's really going to put in her all to solve it, is the why us. So with Swiggy, the why this was, actually there were many food delivery apps before Swiggy, but their insight was that people, when they order food, they want that food in 30 minutes. So pehle kya hota tha? You used to send the order to the restaurant. Whenever the restaurant was ready, they used to deliver. Swiggy said, no, I will take on the delivery myself and own this and make sure that within 30 minutes, so the Domino's experience, if you can call it, is what matters the most to the consumers. So this is the solution. So they're very clear about the why this. The why now is was because there was an increasing kind of, in urban cities, convenience was becoming more in terms of, people, a lot of working folks, they wanted to go behind professionals or double professional kind of couples as their first target. So there was a timing element that segment was growing fast, especially in metros. And then why us? The team had a really good background of operations, which was important for Swiggy, along with the tech and product. So building out the app, building out the whole flow, that when your order goes, it should hit the right restaurant, they should receive it, all of that. That team had a really good balance as well. So fundamentally, whenever you're raising, let's say if you're raising with angels, micro funds, any VC, try and make sure that your deck answers these 3 questions.
Nancy, there's people really want to know. एक सवाल जो हमारे 3 कोहॉर्ट्स में अभी तक निकल के आया, सबसे बड़ा सवाल है कि भाई पता कैसे चले कि सही टाइम कब है फंडिंग का? तो कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि when you are break even, some people say at idea stage, and some people say at that the minimal viable products. When do you think is the right time to go for funding? Assume the idea is very powerful. So Mansi, we are hoping to create a journey with you, and I'd like to thank Setu also for being a part of this, relentless journey that we have created with all our women entrepreneurs. But we want you to continue your patronage in terms of coming and guiding all our ladies, future, VC prospects, and telling them and clearing the basics. So thank you. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद है, शुक्रिया है. और आपसे फिर मिलेंगे. But thank you for now, and thank you for sparing the time to come. Thank you to you. And
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. Good luck, everyone.
With that, I think we come to the close of this event. I really hope कि आपको ये session informative और educational लगा. जैसे मैंने कहा, टेक सुपर गर्ल में एक नेटवर्किंग लाउंज हम बिल्ड करने जा रहे हैं, जिसमें ऐसे सेशंस once a quarter हम 100% करेंगे दिल्ली, NCR और बाकी cities में. So if you liked it, do send us a review. Thank you so much.